This summer, we're all going to get yet another look at the Italian Mafia, this time from former Lucchese crime family underboss Anthony Gaspipe Casso. Gaspipe spoke exclusively to author Philip Carlo about the wheeling and dealing behind the long list of robberies and bodies he left in his wake. And Philip joins us this morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
So for those of us who don't know, who was or who is Gaspipe?
Anthony Gaspipe Casso was basically an extremely cunning individual who was, in a very real sense, born into a mafia culture, mindset, belief system, in a neighborhood in South Brooklyn where a lot of mafioso came from, famous mafioso. Albert Anastasia, the Gallo brothers, a long list of people. And for Anthony, being a member of the mafia was like becoming, getting a seat in a stock exchange, becoming a doctor, getting a PhD. It was what people wanted, what people vied for, certain people. It was a quick way to become rich, garner respect, etc. So who was Anthony Casso? He was a particularly bright, very violent, psychopathic killer with a Machiavellian slant to how he viewed the goings-on in the mafia. He was extremely successful.
Now, Philip, you grew up near Gaspipe Casso, which is fascinating. You knew him as a kid. Your family stayed close. What did you know about him and what he was involved in as you grew up?
What's so extraordinary about this book, Gaspipe, and my relationship with the story is that Anthony lived next door to me and my family for 6 years. When he and his wife Lillian first moved in, they were just a new couple on the block. They became very good friends with my parents. They were Italian, the same age. They vacationed together. We knew he was connected, but in that neighborhood, half the men were connected, so it was no big deal. Truly, literally. I went to school with their children.
Amazing.
Paul Castellano's granddaughter, Kathy, was my schoolmate. Anthony, what was he like? He was quiet. He was a nice guy. There were a couple of instances where there were certain problems, and he straightened them out nicely. Never asked for anything in return.
Right.
And we liked him. I still like him.
I think one of the things that people find fascinating about the mafia is the structure that exists and the power structure, people rising up the ranks. How did Gaspipe become who he became, the head of the Lucchese crime family?
That discipline was taken from what the Roman legions put together, the reasons that they were so successful. And what made Anthony so amazingly successful was his cunning, his willingness to 1 minute be talking to somebody and the next minute to blow the head, put a bullet in their head. And also what he did unusually well was he made cops and FBI agents part and parcel of his operation.
Was the period in which he headed the Lucchese's kind of the height of the mafia in a sense? Because a lot of people say it isn't now what it once was, but I mean the Lucchese crime family was, along with the Gambinos and others, were a big deal.
Essentially, and this is what Anthony says, the mafia is dying, that the discipline that was there, the honor, the loyalty is gone, the oath that they took, the blood oath that they take, omeretta, no one really honors anymore. And so he says that's one of the reasons why ultimately he turned. Ultimately, he walked away from a life that he was very, very dedicated to.
And turned and became a government informant. Now, we got to get to this question about Jimmy Hoffa and what he said or what he claimed to know about what happened to Jimmy Hoffa.
Essentially, because of the position Anthony had within the mafia, he was like a CEO, let's say. He knew a lot of things that occurred. Jimmy Hoffa, unfortunately, had a big mouth, says Anthony. And he was making too much trouble. He was arguing with Robert Kennedy back and forth, and it was always he's involved with organized crime, They asked him many times to stop it. He didn't. The Genovese family sent the crew to Detroit, and they killed him.
And any idea where the body is? Has he ever given any information on that? One of those great
know
mysteries?
exactly where the body is.
Is that right?
Yep.
Please.
He's buried under your chair.
There it is. You heard it here first on GMA Now. So, I mean, for those who are fascinated, and there are a lot of people who are fascinated with La Cosa Nostra, what will they find in this book and the story of Gaspipe that is different or new from things they've heard about mafia bosses before?
It's really a very deep, profound look at not only the violence, but what's behind the violence. The who, what, when, why is all there within the context of his story. The violence is only a byproduct of a belief system. It's not what comes first. Also, the union infiltration, how it happens,
Yes.
why it happens. The Lucchese's family, more than any other family, controlled the unions. Also, drugs. What role does the mafia really play in bringing narcotics into this country? It's all in his book in living color.
Fascinating, a lot of different angles there. And just to sum up, Gaspipe Casso, you mentioned that he at some point turned, became a government informant, had to deal with the government. But what happened? Because he's actually still in prison now, right?
Well, basically what happened, this is so very interesting. In the course of him turning, it was essentially because other people had done it, other people had, and the Chin Gigante did not murder somebody he was supposed to murder. A lot of people got arrested. Anthony just became fed up with it, and he turned. In the course of him telling about what he knew, he kept besmirching. He kept talking about Sammy the Bull Gravano. He was saying things the government didn't want to hear. Gravano was a star witness. They wanted to keep him insulated and protected. Anthony was telling the truth. So they ended up deep-sixing Anthony. They didn't give him the deal they said they would give him, and he's now wasting away in ADX maximum prison.
Wow, unbelievable story. Well, Philip, thank you so much for